Hello, and welcome to today's 403B Advisor Web Forum. My name is Sarah Griggs. I am today's NTSA 403B Advisor Web Forum Coordinator. We have scheduled 50 minutes for today's web forum, including Q&A. Today's forum theme is The Best Thing I Did for My Practice. Our forum panelists are NTSA Lead Advisors Richard Dobson and Bruce Smith, and NTSA Lead Advisor Honored Nominee Jerry Wozniak. Your questions are an important part of the 403B Advisor Web Forums. You may ask questions or provide comments for our panelists at any time by simply typing your comments into the chat box on the left-hand side of your screen. Don't worry, only the panelists will see your questions. We will address as many questions throughout the panel discussion as possible and wrap up with a Q&A session. Remember, to receive your continuing education credit, you must watch this webcast in its entirety. Our host today is David Blask. David is Senior Pension Consultant for Lincoln Investment Planning, Inc. Lincoln Investment Planning is a broker-dealer, investment advisor, and platform provider that specializes in 403B, 457, and 401k plans. David has worked with all types of retirement programs for over 30 years. David is an acknowledged expert in the 403B market. His views on the changing world of 403B plans have been quoted by the Wall Street Journal and Defined Contribution and Savings Plan Alert. David is the past president of NTSA. David, thank you for hosting today's web forum.
Thank you, Sarah, and welcome to everybody. Today's web forum topic is the best thing I ever did for my practice. We've all had those moments in our careers where we look back and we think, gee, I should have, I would have, I could have, if only I could go back and apply what I know now then. Well, they say there's no teacher quite like experience because you always tend to get the test before you get the lesson. And that in mind, we're lucky to have three great panelists that are willing to share some of the lessons that they've learned along the way that they feel have made a big difference in building their businesses. We tend to know what we should be doing to be successful, but it's easy to get lost by focusing on what is urgent rather than focusing on what's truly important. And today's panelists have been there. And the important part to take away is what you can do to take your business to the next level. I'd like to introduce all three of them at this point. Richard Dobson is based in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Richard is president of American Financial Management, a registered investment advisory firm that operates in 37 states. Since 1983, American Financial Management has specialized in third-party asset management for variable annuities, variable universal life, and mutual fund subaccounts. Richard is also a certified financial planner at Investors Professional Services and operated Professional Brokerage Services, a life and annuity partner. In addition, he is a life member of the $1 Million Roundtable and has served on numerous MDRT committees, as well as serving as a board trustee of the MDRT Foundation. He's also a 30-year member of the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors and served on the NAFA Iowa Board of Directors. Moving on to Bruce Smith. Bruce started the CalPER Network in Southern California back in 1983, focusing on advising clients in the K-12 403B market. The San Diego business has grown to $350 million of assets under management and now has 8 representatives. The client base includes both private and public sector retirement participants, and Bruce continues to serve public schools as well as not-for-profit organizations. And last but not least is Jerry Wozniak. Jerry is a financial advisor with Lincoln Investment Planning. He joined Lincoln back in 1986 and now serves as Regional Vice President for Western Pennsylvania. Jerry's a certified financial planner as well as a registered investment advisory representative. In addition to his business, he is active in the community and has served as a trustee for the Homeless Children's Educational Fund, a not-for-profit organization that works to supplement federal funding to provide educational needs of homeless children. Each of our forum panelists will speak on the selected topic for about 10 minutes. You can see that up on the screen, Bruce will be covering Plan for Success, Richard, building a great team, and Jerry working on creating lasting value for your clients and your practice. Our goal is that at the end of this session, you will walk away with one idea, that aha moment, that will help you to make your business better. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's panel moderator, Executive Director of NTSA, Chris DeGrassi. Chris?
Thank you, David, for that kind introduction, and welcome, everyone. And welcome to our first edition of the 403B Advisor web forum. These forums are designed to be conversational and interactive. If you take a notice, there's a comment section in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. So if you have a question or a comment for one of our panelists, just type it in the message box. And again, don't worry, no one else is going to see what you've written. We're going to do our best to get your comments and questions integrated into our panel segments. And if we can't quite get there during our 10-minute panel segments, we'll go ahead and we'll try and get your question addressed in the question and answer session at the end of the panel. And if not, we'll follow up to your question by email. So with that, I would like to introduce our first panelist today, Bruce Smith. Hey, Bruce, thanks for joining us. Well, Bruce, I'm not hearing you, pal. All right, so I think what we'll do is we have a communication problem there. So why don't I advance the slide? And Richard, are you on the line?
I am, Chris.
All right, wonderful. If you don't mind, Richard, how about we step to your panel section and, talk about building a great team.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Okay. So, hey, thanks so much. Again, your topic was really about building a great team. I really appreciate this. Can you maybe start off by telling us a little bit about why building a great team is the best thing you've ever done for your business?
Well, it's critical, and most of us are small business people, of course. In addition to being advisors and planners, we also have employees that we depend on to help us in those endeavors. And the careful selection of those folks is critical. I think each of us may have experienced when you get someone that's not a good fit, it's not only costly and time-consuming, but it can take a lot of the joy out of being an advisor, the very reasons why we entered this business, for the freedom it offers and the financial reward and the satisfaction of helping others. If we get someone in our office that doesn't quite mesh or isn't up to the job, it can have profound and substantial effects on your business.
Well, it sounds like for a small practice, hiring is just absolutely critical, perhaps maybe even more critical hiring the right person than in a larger practice. Do you find that to be the case?
Well, it certainly is. If you've got 2 or 3 people that are assisting you and one of them is not a good fit, 25% of your employees are sometimes not pushing the rock up the hill like the rest of them, if you will. So it is critical, and then careful selection and diligence at the front end can save literally your business on the other end, because you take a lot of time and energy to find those folks, to interview them, to get them involved and on board, and if they don't work out, why, it's costly.
It almost sounds like in a small business, the business is your personal brand, and your employees are a reflection of that. And making sure you have the right person, they're a reflection on what you do. So, we all know that we need to hire the right people. But, we always tend to find ourselves in positions where we've executed on a great business plan, phones are ringing off the hook, paperwork's backing up, and we say, we need someone now. And we've made that hire. Yeah. What's wrong with just hiring to build your business demands, and why does it pay to be prudent in your hiring practice?
Oh, it does. And I'm sure we all have some stories about the employees that weren't on board or performing their tasks as expected. And we're busy professionals. We're trying to fill up our week with appointments, see clients, generate revenues, and we take it for granted sometimes that the folks that we hire are performing their duties. Years ago we had an individual, and come to find out after they left, we found a massive amount of paper that needed to be filed that was squirreled away in our storage room. So, the supervision is tough for us because, we're trying to see clients, and we're not really trained in HR. We're more trained in financial matters and in marketing. And so it can really be a kind of an off-topic function for us. And so I think there are a couple of tips and ways that we have found some good ones that we would share today with our audience.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the hiring process that's worked at your firm, and then maybe some of the tips for finding good employees.
Yeah, it's interesting. A friend of mine recently got a job at a community college, and it was a 2.5-month process. And, of course, typically we don't spend that much time finding employees. And we're not funded by tax dollars like a community college would be, and we don't have a 7-person HR department. So how do we go about screening these folks that are applying for jobs and then finding the one that will work out? It is a challenge. A couple of the things, of course, there's pre-employment testing. There's a lot of job aptitude tests out there that are pretty well known. Jackson Vocational Interest Survey. There's, I think Harvard has a couple of tests that they do. That can help. Using an employment agency to help screen those folks, where they have to do the keying, typing, as we refer to it from the old days. They perform those things so that you're delivered a report of the aptitude. What are the functions that this person can do, and what's their level of proficiency. That can be helpful. We also have, for years, used interns. We're fortunate that we have a state university here, Northern Iowa. It's one of the top accounting schools in the country, measured by the successful completion of the CPA exam by seniors and as they graduate. And there's a great business college there. So we have finance majors, marketing majors, accounting majors, and we typically will have a couple of those every semester, sometimes 3 in the summer. My current assistant was an intern at our organization, and it's kind of a free look. You're able to become familiar with their personality and how they fit in with the others, their skills, certainly their intelligence level, and how they are, if they're a quick study, and she's working out fine. My challenge now is to keep her plenty busy, and so I don't want her out there getting bored. And but she's working out fine, and this was just last May she graduated. And so that may give opportunity for some folks if they're searching for people. Hire them part-time. Have them come in. Our interns work 15 to 20 hours a week, and we've got at any time 10 to 12 full-time. And so I might be a little bit bigger than the average advisor because of our businesses that we have here that we need to attend to. But for even a small advisor, to have someone to come in part-time can take the load off of their personal assistant and freeing them up from the more mundane tasks and focusing on those that generate revenue. That's also, and sometimes they work for a grade, so that's even better for the intern. And then you're required, of course, to do an evaluation, which you probably should be doing anyway. So that kind of focuses us on what's important with those folks and gives you an opportunity. Of course, a lot of these kids, they want to move on. That's fine too. And they get a lot of great real-life practice by working in a business versus maybe being a waitress or a waiter in a bar or restaurant. It looks a lot better on their resume, particularly if they're that business, finance, accounting, management, or marketing major.
So it sounds like even if you have a good resource for finding qualified employees might be even going to your local community college and speaking to someone in the business department, not only by creating possible opportunities, but identifying yourself as a business partner willing to bring on students as interns, and it's a good way to really find some qualified, educated, and motivated individuals.
Well, it is, and it does double duty. I mean, those folks that you're speaking to at the community college are prospects, and so for 403B, if they allow that, so and if they don't, they're still a prospect for ancillary and personal type of business. So, to be on an advisory board for their marketing department or management department can go a long way. You're a known entity. And as you talk to those professors and instructors, if they keep an eye out for the brightest and best, you might just get a phone call and say, hey, you should talk to this student. I think they'd be a good fit. That's a pre-screen that's invaluable.
Richard, we do have a question from the audience asking if you're hiring somebody for 15 to 20 hours a week, how do you pay them, and how do you establish procedures for training them and getting them on board when they're, that part-time?
Yeah, and, the students are eager to work part-time. Typically they have a load of classes, and so, but yet they needed some additional income. We pay our interns minimum wage. We tell them that up front. There's also a savings. If you're hiring a student intern, and I believe, and maybe this isn't universal, but I don't believe we pay unemployment insurance on those folks. And so there is a bit of a cost savings. Now, of course, when I hired the intern full-time, her pay scale changed, of course. And so that might be up to local customs, maybe. I know a lot of larger companies don't pay their interns at all. So for them to have an opportunity to get real-life experience, something that looks better on the resume, and for our potential to get a free look at someone to perhaps hire them full-time, it's a win-win for them and for us.
Okay, and in terms of training, do you have them shadow somebody, or is there a formal, informal program, or just assigning tasks as they arise?
Yeah, we do. We have them shadow, and we like to put them into all aspects of the business. We have an admin unit. We, of course, have a compliance unit, and so we've got different areas of the business. We would like them to become familiar with all the areas, and typically it doesn't take too long. If they were a week or two in each area, they're at least familiar. And then they're also able to cover the phones, do the filing, do other things of that nature. But they tend to be pretty smart with the technology as well. And so where we might not have the acumen that they do, it's nice to have that resource where they can certainly help us in challenges that we might be having from a technology standpoint.
Sure. Thank you.
So, Richard, I know you have some tips we want to get to before we close out your panel, which has been wonderful. But I think I heard something that I wanted to ask you a question about, which is, small businesses don't have HR departments, and you talked about hiring out those services or using employment or temp agencies. But as an advisor, are there any skills that are unique to being an advisor that you use and find helpful in finding that right fit to build your business?
Well, they absolutely are, Chris. And I mean, we're in the people business, and we read people every day for a living. As we talk to clients, if a client's reluctant or confused or they maybe have an objection, we're experts at addressing that, recognizing it first and addressing it. And I think that's hardwired into each of us. We need to use those skills as we interview a prospective employee and not go into it thinking, gee, I'm not trained in this. I really don't have any experience interviewing people. We do. And if we tap into that, I think we'll have better results. to go into an employee interview with the thought, I'm going to treat this like a client interview, and what I want to, my goal is to, and I like to say, drop the mask. Everyone that's in an employment interview situation that seeks a job, of course, they want to put their best foot forward. Our task is to, gee, if I can get this person to reveal a little bit, if I can get a peek behind the curtain, as it were, and maybe I'll find a toe stubber. Maybe if they throw off on their last employer or they have negative comments, and you were able to be conversational with them and get them to drop that facade, and you get a peek behind there, that can be invaluable. You may want to cross that person off the list and go on to the next one if they reveal something that is not quite right. And so I think that each one of us, because of what we do for a living, have that. We're hardwired for that, and we need to tap into it when we do those employee interviews.
Well, thank you, Richard, and all great stuff. In closing, we all know that we need to be careful when we hire, but we've all gone ahead and brought in a person to meet a need, and it hasn't worked out. Can you just leave us maybe with some advice or steps that you suggest everyone refreshes and follows in order to make sure they make that right hire to build a great team?
Well, absolutely, and I think that you have to bear in mind that there's an awful lot of people sometimes that are seeking jobs, and it's not unusual to get buried with resumes from folks, and so that's where an employment agency could help. The headhunter, if they understand what you're looking for, and they have some folks that they can run past you then that have taken these tests, that have what their typing skills are, what their aptitude is. That can really cut to the chase and save you some time. And of course, that may cost something up front, but in the long run, you don't have to go through that process of deciphering 100 different resumes.
Yeah, well, that's grateful, and we had a chance to talk beforehand, Richard, and some of the tips that you gave me was making sure that the position's well defined, because it's hard to find someone if you don't know what you're looking for. Testing the skills for the agency, but also that personal fit. That applying your interview skills to make sure you have a person that's going to represent your personal brand, and then having that defined path to success, which I heard you talk about the shadowing process and getting these folks integrated so that you're just not putting a body at a desk and hoping for the best. Because I like the little picture in the bottom right-hand corner that hiring is a lot like the Forrest Gump. Hiring is like a box of chocolates. You never quite know what you're going to get, do you, Richard?
No, you don't. You don't. And so that's why you try to get them to drop that mask in the interview process. If you can save yourself a lot of time, trouble, and energy and funds too.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Richard. And Bruce, do we have you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, I'm sorry we did not. We failed to provide you the right information up front.
But it's my fault.
You're a dear friend and a gentleman, and I thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Hey, plan for success. We all know that everyone wants to be successful. I've never met an advisor that doesn't want to be successful. But we all know the reality that very few really seem to make it and hit that level of success that they know is possible. It just doesn't work out for a lot of folks. So you've grown a successful business. I mean, why is Plan for Success the best thing you've ever done for your business?
Well, ever since I've been in business, I followed a lot of motivational speakers early on. Some people think that's kind of wacky, but I picked up a lot of ideas that have helped me be very successful. And I'd say the number one thing that I've learned to do right from the beginning was to set goals. And also, if you set the goal, you have to track your performance. If you don't have a goal, you're already headed in the wrong direction. And so we set our goals every year with our organization, and we create a marketing plan to help us reach those goals. We have it on an Excel spreadsheet right now, but it's called the Red Book. And the reason it's called a Red Book is when I started in business in 1983, I kept a red folder and I documented every sale that I made and tracked it as far as whether I was reaching my goals for that month. When you think about it, if you set a goal for yourself, let's say at the beginning of the year, and you have a bad January, you're already almost 10% behind in your goal. And so now if you're tracking your goals, that means I really have to step it up so I don't have a bad month the next month and maybe get even further behind to reach my goal. That's kind of critical area. I have a guy that works in my office who I keep trying to mentor, and he just refuses to pick up and follow what we're trying to teach him. He comes in and sees a client or two during the day, and as soon as he's done, he's gone. He has no goal. He has no track to run on. And unfortunately, I think that happens with the majority of the people in our business. I mean, I have no more opportunities than anybody else out there. I just have a track that I follow and work.
So that's a great point. I mean, Bruce, we all hear that you need to take time out and create that business plan, create that marketing plan. It's worked for you, but does it really work for everyone? And does it really make a difference for everyone? I mean, isn't it just a matter of what someone's skills are that really decides if they're going to be successful or not? Do you have any examples where planning makes a difference?
Yeah, exactly. I have two representatives that work for me in Central California. I set them up with school districts. They have both the same opportunities, and yet their achievement is vastly different. One guy is very lackadaisical about following up on the leads that he has and making the most of his business, and the other guy is digging in and following, so he's become one of the top reps and plan member now because he's following the track that we've laid out for him, and he's doing the things that he needs to do to reach his goals. There's an old saying that attitude is more important than aptitude, and I absolutely believe that. You could take two people with the same skill sets, and if their attitude is different, their achievement is going to be vastly different.
And it sounds like it's not just having the attitude, but having a direction and a path to apply it to. Is that really the difference?
Yes. I've started from the time I started in the business trying to work top down in the business. When I first got in, I worked for a large firm that did 403B business, and their advice to me was to go into a teacher's lounge with a box of donuts and try and get people to talk. I thought that was a loser way to do business, and so we've been doing group meetings ever since then. We've done dinners, we do workshops at schools, we do anything to get a whole group together. But we also go, and I don't see any of my competition doing this, we go to superintendent conferences. We picked up with other organizations, teacher organizations in the state. We work the charter schools. You got to find a group or a niche that you want to get into, or actually a couple of niches if you can, and create a marketing plan and go after those groups. The one thing I've learned over the years once I get inside these groups is there's a tremendous need for what we do. You just have to get in front of people so that they realize that you know what you're talking about, and they'll reach out to you because they have no idea where they're headed. It's a vastly underserved market.
So you use that word, marketing plan, and that shuts a lot of people down as something big and scary and amorphous. Keeping it simple, can you just give me an example, basically, of how that plan translates into your daily activities?
Well, for most representatives, reaching out, for instance, to a school district is difficult. No superintendent or business manager is really going to see you if you call them. Doesn't matter what you're saying or what you're doing to get in. You need to create relationships. And when I started to take my business to the next level, the way that I got in, and it's not going to work for everybody, was through golf tournaments. So I started going to golf tournaments with superintendents or superintendents. I found a group of superintendents that were having their own golf tournament. They invited vendors, and I'd get in, and I'd be able to get in a foursome with 2 or 3 superintendents, and I have 4 or 5 hours to talk about what we do and why it's important. So you get the guy's ear, and if you do it right, then they'll agree to meet with you at a future date. And once you get one, you use them as a referral to get to the next one. It's been a marvelous way to grow the business, but the other way to do it, I think, for most representatives is to go to smaller districts. And we've created a huge niche in California with small school districts. There's over 500 small school districts in California out of a total of 1,000 districts. When I say a small district, I'm talking anywhere from 1 school to 5 or 6 schools. And they're vastly underserved. Nobody goes to see them. And so we started working that market, and it started growing like crazy. In one county in Central California, we started with 1 district, and now we have 17 districts where we're doing programs for those districts. So you don't have to start big to make a success of your operation. You can start with small districts. If you go into school and you end up getting 15 or 20 clients versus trying to hit a big district or going to teacher's lounge and pick up 1 or 2 clients, we're going to knock you out of the ballpark every day of the week.
So, keeping it simple was a theme that I've heard you hit on, and I mean, it sounds like everyone knows they need to create a plan, and everyone knows that their business will get to the next level if they have a plan. They know what they're doing when they come in, but the biggest obstacle just might be not knowing where to start. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about how you integrated and made marketing plan such a vital part of your practice?
Well, I've shared with you already what we do to get into the market, but more so is working the book of business that you already have. And we've done that we use Advisor's Assistant as our client data management system, and we're constantly reviewing with our clients. One of the other reps that I recently put out has been fairly successful without even having a goal or a marketing plan. Business kind of just fell on him for one reason or another. But when we started working with this guy, I said, okay, let's take a look at your book of business. Let's look at your client data management system. And he had a management system that only had names, addresses, and phone numbers and emails of his clients. He had absolutely no notes on any of his clients. And I've been a big note taker forever. Every time I speak with a client, I go in their system, I put in the notes. A client may say to me, my husband John is going to retire in 2 years. Well, I'm looking at his 401k plan. So my note goes in for 2 years down the road. The note pops up. I've got 1,500 clients. So you're putting notes in. Something's popping up every week over the years of somebody needs something that I put a note in for and tracked it. And so I call the client for a review and say, how's John doing? Well, he's going to retire next month. Great. Let's set up a meeting and talk about what to do with his 401k plan or his 457 plan or whatever. There's ancillary business out there, and once you get into it and start talking to the clients and reviewing regularly, you find that there's a ton of money out there. I've been finding a lot of money right now sitting in banks at 0.1% just by asking that question in a review. What else do you have? Where are all your assets right now? Well, I have $50,000 in the bank. Well, how's that doing? Not very well. Well, let's put it somewhere where it has an opportunity to grow.
So what I've taken away is that a key to success is having that, you come in the office, that to-do list that takes it beyond 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And what you found is that your clients, your conversations you have with them by keeping records, they help you build their own to-do list.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you keep the notes, your to-do list continues to grow. I'm usually the last one to leave the office. I've got 8 representatives under me, but they're all gone somewhere, and I'm still at the office. I'm talking to clients on the phone. It's just smart business to keep track of your clients and your clients' needs. And the other thing it will do is it will wire those clients to you because you're attentive to what they need.
And one thing a successful advisor imparted on me while you're talking about to-do lists is that, the note was, if you run out of things to do before you go home, make a new list.
Yep.
So at the end of every list is build a new list. Do you find that to be, is that really the difference between success and not achieving what you could in your business?
I have a to-do list on my desk every morning when I get there, and I never run out of things to do. If I have this week, for instance, I only had 3 client meetings this week. It was kind of slow for meeting with clients, just by fluke. But I've got plenty of things to work on in my marketing plan, people to call, people to set up other meetings with, trying to market ahead. I want to be a month, 2, 3 months ahead in my marketing so I don't run out of places to go. One of the things that we did, probably 10 years ago, was we hired a business analyst to come in. We paid him a fair amount of money, and he tore apart our whole business. And he wanted to know, why do I have these files on my desk? Why do I have these files in my desk? Because they're not things I'm working on right now. They should be somewhere else. They should be in a credenza or not even in my office. But the main thing that he taught us was that I'm the rainmaker for our organization. I'm the one who brings the rain and brings the business. And if I'm not making rain, the business is not making money. So that forced me to delegate to my assistant and to other reps different projects that were out there so that I could pay attention to building the business. And that was a critical factor. I used to take every phone call that came in because I thought it might be a lead. Now I take no phone calls until the person legitimizes themselves as to why they need to talk to me. My assistant screens everybody.
Bruce, we have a question that ties into exactly what you were just saying, and that is one of the audience is asking if you have ever fired your clients as part of your marketing plan.
Yes. Not very often, but yes, I have. And you get to the point where even if it's a larger client, if they're not buying into your concept of where they're going to be, then you're just beating your head against the wall. A lot of guys would hold on to them simply because they want the commission generated by that client. But if the client's taking up too much of your time, you need to push them aside and pay attention to the rest of your book of business. I'm a big fan of Nick Murray, and I don't know how many people out there read or subscribe to his newsletters, but the guy's phenomenal. And he is an expert at telling you how to run your business as a financial advisor. And one of his big things is if the client doesn't listen to you, no matter how big they are, get rid of them, fire them.
So, Bruce, I just want to explore this real quickly before we close because we have a great session with Jerry as well. But in our talking, you talked about part of your plan, is also segmenting your clients. And that's been vital towards, increasing the strength of your business. Can you talk a little bit about how you segment your clients and then how that, how you manage clients for greater success in your business?
Very good point, Chris. You want to spend major time with major clients and minor time with minor clients. And so we segregated our clients based on profitability into A, B, and C clients. So A clients, I do a telephone review with them twice a year. Now, I don't meet with people in person unless they want to. If they want to come in and meet with me, I will if they're a big enough client. But typically it's over the phone. You find that they don't really want to come into the office or spend a lot of time either. I can do it in a 10 to 15 minute phone review with them. So my A clients I review typically twice a year, B clients once a year, and C clients I try not to talk to at all unless there's some necessity that they have to get to me. They will get a notice or a phone call from my assistant to see if there's anything they need, and 9 times out of 10 they don't. But while you touch on that subject, we also touch our clients several times a year. I write a newsletter 3 times a year on minor points, but more of it's about personal issues, what they need to do with their kids going to college, what's happening with my family. And I think that's foolish, but it wires me to my clients because they don't want to read a newsletter all about financial stuff. They want to know about what's going to be beneficial to them. They want to know more about me and what type of person I am that they're putting all their money with. And one other thing, and I tell people this a lot, We started sending out Christmas cards, I don't know, 25 years ago, or holiday card, if you will. But the key to it is I put a family picture in every one, a different picture each year. We make a big deal in our family about taking a family picture, and I put it in there. My clients love it. They'll tell me in October how great my Christmas card was from last year. Those are the kinds of things that wire you to your clients and make you an important person in their life. And once you're in that position, they're never leaving you.
You know, and that ties directly to what Richard was talking about earlier, is that, I mean, and you even said, your business is your personal brand, and that's your connection. So whether you're hiring or you're communicating, you need to make sure that all those things reflect what your personal brand is, because that's the vital part of your relationship with your clients.
Absolutely.
So we're going to move to a close real quickly and then get to Jerry again. So, you know, in closing, you know, do you have any final thoughts that really will help the listeners think about, you know, and focus on doing what really is, what some might say, an obvious part of running a business, but that for some reason we all never get around to? So, when, you know, what are your keys and tips about building a successful plan?
I told you earlier that I followed motivational speakers over the years, and one of my favorites was Zig Ziglar. And Zig had a quote that I picked up years ago that I follow, and that is that you can get anything in life that you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. There's a huge need in our business, and it doesn't look like it, because when you go out and visit schools and you try to talk to people, everybody tries to blow off the TSA guy. You know, you're just another sales guy. But once you get into it, you're going to find out, and we found out in California, that the participation level in 403B is under 25%. Less than, so that means 75% of school employees are doing nothing in voluntary contributions for retirement. And we've reinforced that over and over with the districts that we work with. And so they didn't even know it. They don't know it until you expose it to them. But once you get inside a district, you find that people will come to you because they don't trust all these guys that are coming in and selling a product. They want somebody they can rely on, somebody that it holds out to make a difference in their lives going forward.
That's wonderful. And, you know, the three things that I heard you say, that it's pretty simple. You start with the end in mind. Know what you want your business to be and how much you want to earn. The second is have a plan for every day. It needs to be actionable and measurable. It's your to-do list. And your third is keep a record. And that record feeds that to-do list, and so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely. It's not rocket science, Chris, but it works.
You know, that's what's so great about it. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much, Bruce. Thanks. And now I want to get to Jerry's presentation. And Jerry, you have a great topic. I know we're scheduled just till for another 7 minutes or so, but I do want to take the time and not limit us, because you know, what you have is some really great stuff to share with the folks on the phone. And I mean, your topic today is create lasting value. You know, Jerry, we all talk about finding ways to create lasting value for our clients and our business, and ways to really keep what we've built and make it last. And I guess one key thing to think about in terms of retaining value is we focus so much on the asset accumulation and getting people to put money away. But as an industry, we haven't looked at, you know, what it means now that our client base is heading from the accumulation into the distribution and wealth transfer portion of their financial life. And, you know, we find that these clients that we've worked with for a long time are walking out the door. And so it's a new concept in keeping our clients. So, you know, why don't you tell us a little bit about why creating lasting value was the best thing you ever did for your business?
First of all, can you hear me well, Chris?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I don't exactly know where this concept began to develop because I think there were several different points that I could reference. But I was at a conference once, and I think I heard the speaker say that the wealth transfer that they expect to go from the baby boomers to the next generation was somewhere between 35 and 40 trillion dollars. And I thought, we talk about the different markets. We talk about whether you're going to work the 403B or the 401K market. But what about the wealth transfer market? I mean, can there be any bigger asset base that's going to be available for us to discuss than that? 35 to 40 trillion dollars. So I then began to think, and perhaps what prompted this was my wife called me one time. Pennsylvania has a very robust defined benefit plan for school teachers. And she called me and said, you know, the guys in the faculty room were talking. That's usually bad news. And they said, we really ought to have a defined contribution plan rather than a defined benefit plan. And I said, well, let me do a little bit of time value calculation for you. And by my estimate, because I know what your pension is, we would need to have about $1.4 to $1.6 million in our 401K to create the kind of cash flow that we expect in retirement. Then I began to get some questions regarding Social Security. And I found that Social Security can be have a value of between perhaps $600,000 and $800,000 to participants. And I said, you know, we have a tendency to spend a lot of time with clients that have $500,000 or $1 million in money, but we fail to recognize the fact that it probably is incumbent upon us to not only manage their money as we clearly define it, but assets. And I categorized Social Security and the pension system as an asset. And the unique characteristic of that is that when we speak of wealth transfer, those are assets that cannot be passed to the next generation. So therefore, I felt that it's incumbent upon me to be able to help them manage those assets so as to get the most efficient use out of those assets because they cannot be passed to the next generation. And if those assets are not used effectively and efficiently, they diminish the family assets, which obviously then diminishes the amount of wealth transfer that's going to occur from one generation to the next. So I began to talk to my clients about assets as anything that's going to add value to them and not just your money. So let's talk about planning for Social Security. Let's talk about making good pension decisions. Let's make good Medicare decisions because those are all important assets that we fail to recognize. I did a presentation in front of the superintendent's group one time, and my opening remark was, you know, I don't know anything about how much money any of you have, but I have an idea what your pension is and what your Social Security is. You are all multi-millionaires when it comes to your assets. And I mean not necessarily your money, but your assets. So shouldn't somebody be helping you manage those assets? And that's where I began to, evolve that process. I did a lot of work on studying Social Security. I went away for a 3-day conference to a Social Security workshop. And I began to do, we've done several workshops now where we call wealth transfer workshops, where I did a couple pieces on Social Security, and I talked about in many cases, the planning steps that people fail to take to diminish estate shrinkage as the assets pass from one generation to another. Simple things like making sure you avoid probate, having beneficiaries correct, perhaps having some a trust or something in place. And I invited an estate attorney, an elder care attorney. Obviously, not planning for elder care can significantly diminish the assets. And then we had a person who was a geriatric care manager who basically is the quarterback of helping to organize all of that. And what we did was we invited our clients, and if they were Well, I don't think we even distinguished it. We said to the clients, look, these are items that affect both your children and perhaps if you have elderly parents, affect the elderly parents. So please feel free to bring either a parent or a child with you to these workshops. So what that really did was, obviously, it helped us uncover additional assets that, maybe if you had a 45-year-old who only had $200,000 in a 403B, and the parent had $1 million from a 401k rollover, that opened up an investment opportunity for you. But the other thing that it did is it helped in terms of positioning yourself to be the recipient for wealth transfer. So that's kind of how the whole process evolved.
Yeah. So Jerry, let me unpack a couple things because I heard some great stuff in there. I mean, the first thing that I heard was between $2 and $3 trillion of assets that are looking to be transferred from one generation to the next.
No, I think that I heard in a seminar it was like $30 to $40 trillion.
Nice. Now, the second part to that was, and I really want to explore this, for this market, this K-12 403 market, there's a very unique side of the balance sheet that you were able to explore, and it's that difference between the family assets and the program assets. And you talked about maximizing the two. Can you again just, why does that formula work so well in the 403 market about family assets and program assets? And let's talk about what fits into both those categories.
Well, what would fit into the program asset are assets that, number one, you can't put your finger on as to what it's worth. I mean, in a defined benefit plan, nobody sends you a statement and says, well, the present value of your pension plan was $1.4 trillion or $1.4 million a year ago, and now it's $1.6 million. You never know what that number is. Unlike your 403B, where it's going to move up and down with the market. Nor do you get that information from the Social Security Department. You just really don't know what that number is. So the pension, Social Security, and Medicare would be, in my opinion, the three items that would be program assets. So, and how that fits over to the family assets. Family assets would be pretty much anything else. And once again, the distinguishing characteristic is that for the most part, because we get these questions, all the time. Well, geez, I put so much money into the Social Security system. So what happens if both my spouse and I die unexpectedly, and I put in $600,000-700,000 into the Social Security system over those years? Does my family get any of that? No. In a pension program where somebody takes a single life or a joint life option and both people die, does any of that go to the family? Absolutely not. So isn't it incumbent upon us to be sure that they get the most out of those two assets that they could possibly get, because they can't pass to the next generation? And if they fail to make those decisions properly and they don't get the most out of that, then what asset do they have to tap? They have to tap the IRA, they have to tap the 403B, assets which could have gone to the next generation, but consequently perhaps would get consumed because decisions were not made properly with the program assets. Does that answer your question, Chris?
And that sounds like a tremendous value to your clients. Understanding that they have to look at both sides of their asset balance sheet and find a way to maximize and retain that which can be paid down to the next generation.
Yeah, and the other thing was, and I'll ask this question rhetorically to everybody on the line, but what do you think your clients think that you do for them? What do they think you do for them? And so often, we probably all get this comment, well, we think you have a crystal ball, and you know when the market's going to go up and the market's going to go down. And frankly, if that's what they think I do for them, all of us are going to fail at that one time or another. We're not always going to pick the best mutual fund or annuity for them one year after another. So how do we really add value autonomous of what the market's going to do? The market's going up and everybody's saying, oh, you made this money for you made this money for me. Well, and to an extent we do because we help them build portfolios, but in reality, if the market goes up, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to get good performance. And if the market goes down, they're not going to get good performance, generally speaking. So how else can we bring value to them in either an up or a down market? And I'll give you one really great example. We did a retirement plan for a client. She retired in June of last year, and she started Social Security in October. And we went to see her in February, I believe, and she said, boy, you know, my portfolio looks good. She said, I got this letter from Social Security that I owe $4,800. Well, to make a long story short, Social Security made a mistake. So she went to the Social Security office, and the Social Security clerk told her that she owed the money. Well, my client said, but my advisor said that I didn't, and here's why. Bottom line is she didn't owe the money. So in that example, I probably felt better than if I had given her a 20% return on her portfolio, because that was a value that I truly added for her. I truly put $4,800 in her pocket. And by the way, when the husband called me to tell me that, he said, I have a $600,000 401k rollover that I need to talk to you about. So those are the kind of things where on the first hand, we've added value because we did something regardless of what the market did. We truly put money in her pocket by what we knew about the program asset called Social Security. And the second thing is it helped me grow my business.
It sounds a lot like, you know, what my grandma used to tell me about, you know, there's things fit into two pockets, that which you can control and that which you can't, and you need to understand.
Exactly right.
And it kind of seems like as advisors, we always focus on, the tendency is to focus on what you can't control, which is the investments, and we miss, there's a lot that you can control that's part of that asset side of the balance sheet where clients have a real need and provides value. Is that what you found in your, is that how you position yourself with these clients?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a bit of an exaggeration perhaps, but you know, at some point I would like to have my clients perceive me that I add value in so many other ways through Social Security planning or estate planning or whatever. And oh, by the way, I manage their assets too. I would rather than focus on all those positive things that I can do in other areas and therefore not have to provide the best performance every year when compared to my competitors, because I bring a lot of other things to the table.
Now I understand how taking that approach, you know, helps you keep a client, but does it really help you keep that next generation of clients? I mean, has there ever been an example where, you know, it's turned into, you know, I now have a new client because of what I did for my first client?
Well, I mean, this is perhaps one of my most emotional situations that I ever had, and it turned out poorly in one side of it, but well on the other side of it. We had a client who was actually somewhat of a friend of the family. She was secretary for in the building where my wife used to work, and a longtime client. She called me to inform me that that she had ovarian cancer and had a very short life expectancy, and her husband had Alzheimer's disease. So she said, I said to her, well, do you have estate documents? No. Okay, tomorrow we're going to go see the lawyer. We went to see the lawyer. Lawyer drafted the documents, mailed the documents to her with draft written across it. About 4 weeks later, she called me and said, you know, I can't go to the hospital. I can't go to see the lawyer. Oh, I'm sorry. Prior to that, I spoke with the son. And the woman had about $200,000, and he had a friendship with somebody at the bank and said, well, you know what, I need to get all this information because when something happens to my parents, I'm going to make arrangements to move this to the bank. Well, when the mom called me and said she could not make it to the lawyers because she was perhaps in her last week, we got the documents, we took a notary out and a witness, we got the documents signed, and she died 7 days later. Well, the son, after all of this, came in to see me, and we retained all of the assets because he said that was doing well beyond the call of duty, as he put it, and that's the kind of relationship that he wants to have moving forward. So there were $200,000 in assets that we basically retained, and I got to tell you, we did something that really felt good. The other thing that we did was, because the dad was going into the possibly could go into the nursing home, and the dad was the beneficiary on the accounts initially, then obviously he goes into the nursing home, and those, when the wife dies, those assets immediately become the ownership of the father in the nursing home, and they immediately become subject to Medicaid. And after discussing the different options, we decided to change the beneficiary on the account, that was her wish, to the son. So therefore, when she died, instead of the assets going to the father, it went to the son, and all $200,000 in assets were retained. So those are just the kind of things that go beyond, picking what's going to be the best fund moving forward by gazing into your crystal ball.
And clearly that's something that, that no one at an 800 call center enroller is ever going to do for their client.
No,
that's just
absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So so what I've heard is what you found is there's a market, there's a realization that you've built up a business and you need to prepare to retain those assets in the distribution, but even as it's transferred to the next generation. And really what that's done is it's helped you create your business in a way that it's not dependent upon the ups and downs of the market.
Right.
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
So, we'll get your closing slide on creating lasting value. And Jerry, what I heard was, what you've created is a model of intergenerational planning that seems to be that great win-win for your practice as well as your clients. How has this benefited what it is that you do and the value of your business?
Well, first from a personal perspective, I think that last story that I shared with you, you just feel good about what you do, and I think I want to dovetail on what Bruce said also, in that I think as I don't even want to say as we begin to evolve. I mean, we've already evolved from the point where defined benefit plans are no longer there, and it's basically defined contribution plans. I think that our value to everybody is going to continuously be enhanced, because how many times have you spoken with people who have 401ks and they have no clue what they have in there, and nobody has ever spoken with them? I mean, I have 2 or 3 of those every week. So I think what it's done is it's impressed upon me personally the fact that and I'm going to copy something that I heard, that we are the helping profession. And I have to give credit to somebody for that, but we are the helping profession. So it's made me feel more and more about being part of the helping profession. The other thing that makes me feel good about what we did, about doing that, is that I had my daughter in the apprentice program with our company. She's 27 years old, and she's understanding that this is the helping profession, and that if you're going to be in this business for the long term and you're going to retain assets, you can't be an enroller who just signs people up and you don't deal with what I call the larger assets, which are the pensions and the Social Securities. So number one, I think it's made me feel good about what I do. Number two, it's created a tremendous referral network. We do workshops now on pension and Social Security. We get tremendous attendance because our reputation has spread for things that we do that go beyond enrolling and beyond making decisions from the pension plan. And I think my daughter is really embracing that idea.
So Jerry, before we wrap up, I just want to ask, what's 1 or 2 things that the advisors on the call today should take away and can do and apply in their practice right now that helps them, improve their business and say that, thinking about this creating lasting value and intergenerational wealth transfer, that was one of the best things I ever did for my business?
Well, one lasting thing to take away. I know I'm going to sum that up in what I just said, in that I think it takes you to a different level and a different perception of who you are and what you mean to your clients. I think it makes you less dependent upon either reaping the benefits of good markets or suffering the pains of a down market. And frankly, in all honesty, I feel that it's something that we should do. I think if we're going to continue to grow the reputation of who we are as a profession, that we really need to embrace being able to give good advice on all of those. And I think there was so much need. I think just the story of what happened with that Social Security, and when the person went down to the Social Security office, that person was not there to help them. So I think it's incumbent upon us to be able to help them in those areas. And it really creates a different feeling about who you are as a professional.
And it certainly changes the esoteric question about if I had done the same but my fees were less. And it really is that value add. So, Jerry, great stuff. Thank you so much. And, with that, we want to turn it back over to our host and to our guide for today for any last questions and wrap up. I know we're over time, but we still want to allow a chance for any finishing comments or questions.
Thanks, Chris. I do not see any more questions, so I'm going to turn it over to Sarah after thanking all three of our panelists today.
All right, thank you, David, and thank you all so much for today's great 403B Advisor Web Forum. If anyone has any questions, please submit them, and we will get that answered for you at a later date. We would like your comments on today's session and ideas on how to make the program even better. So please take just a few moments to complete our short survey that will be presented to you. We value your opinions and take them into consideration when planning future events. On behalf of our speakers, our team here at NTSA, and myself, I'd like to say a final thank you for joining us in our presentation today. This is the conclusion of the first NTSA 403B Advisor Web Forum.